The 7th of December, year 1941. The first rays of sunlight broke across the waters of Pearl Harbor. A Sunday morning, clear skies, calm seas. For the crew of the battleship USS California, it was a day that began like countless others. Men on the morning watch prepared to hand over their duties at 8 a.m. Below decks, sailors stirred from sleep as cooks fired up the mess halls to feed a hungry crowd. A canvas awning had been stretched across the deck for church services, Catholic and Protestant, one after the other, scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. Liberty boats bobbed at the ready, set to ferry sailors to shore for a quiet day off duty. No one aboard could know that within the hour, their ship would be in flames, their shipmates fighting for survival, and their nation thrust into war. USS California, commissioned in 1921, was no ordinary battleship. At 624 feet long and displacing more than 33,000 tons when fully loaded, she was the flagship of the Pacific Fleet. For nearly 2 decades, she had carried admirals, hosted ceremonies, and symbolized American power in the Pacific. Her crew of more than 1,000 officers and enlisted men knew her as home. Before we begin, a quick show of support. If you believe our veterans deserve more respect, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop respect in the comments. Now, let's get into the story. By December, year 1941, Pearl Harbor had been the fleet's base for only a year. Battleships lined Ford Island's eastern shore in a proud but vulnerable row. California, moored at the southern end, pointed her bow south. To one side lay the seaplane tender Avocet. 500 yards away, the oiler Neosho rested dangerously at the gasoline wharf. And stretching beyond them were the giants of the fleet. Oklahoma, West Virginia, Arizona, Nevada, all in line, all exposed. Yet on this Sunday morning, California was far from ready for combat. Many senior officers, including Captain Joel W. Bunkley and his executive officer, Commander E.E. Stone, were ashore. Even Vice Admiral William S. Pye, who had chosen California as his flagship, was absent. A simple inspection scheduled for Monday left the ship compromised. 6 manhole covers to her double-bottom tanks were completely removed and a dozen more loosened. Watertight integrity was broken. The ship was, unknowingly, a target waiting to be struck. Her 14-inch main battery guns sat silent. 5-inch guns had ready boxes with 50 shells apiece, but only 2 50-caliber machine guns were actually manned 400 rounds between them. The battleship was fueled to 95% and running on 1 boiler, just enough to provide auxiliary power. In peacetime, this was normal. In minutes, it would be deadly. At 7:50 a.m., the calm morning erupted. Japanese planes thundered across Oahu, their bombs striking Ford Island's airfields and the warships of Battleship Row. Aboard California, the klaxon shrieked. "General quarters!" Men jolted awake, running to their stations, hatches slammed shut, compartments sealed. A voice over the PA cut through the chaos. "This is no drill." But California's fate was already in motion. Her port side faced the harbor channel wide open. And racing across the sky came 24 Nakajima B-5 Newton Kate torpedo bombers, each carrying a Type 91 torpedo with a 452-pound warhead. Yeoman Durrell, Connor, watching from the Flag Communications office, saw one plane break formation, its torpedo tumbling into the water. He slammed shut a porthole an instant before the weapon struck. At 8:05 a.m., the first torpedo slammed into California's port side, just forward of the bridge. A second followed moments later, tearing into her hull near Turret 3. The battleship convulsed, shuddering as if her own 14-inch guns had fired a broadside. Water surged into the open cavities of her double bottom. Oil tanks ruptured, spilling black fumes through the decks. The ship lurched, listing 16 degrees before quick counterflooding, directed by Ensign Edgar Fain, kept her upright. On deck, the first weapons to respond were the manned machine guns, spitting bullets skyward. The 5-inch guns joined in once ammunition runners forced their way to the magazines, but supplies were short. Lieutenant Commander H.E. Bernstein scrambled for the keys to the magazines to release more rounds. Ammunition parties carried shells by hand, choking on oil fumes and smoke. Light and power failed. Work continued in near darkness, by muscle alone. Even as the crew struggled to stem the flooding, another wave struck. Dive bombers screamed down on California at 8:15. One bomb detonated off her port bow, flooding forward compartments. At 8:25, 4 bombs splashed harmlessly into the water, but at 8:30, one found its mark. A direct hit on the starboard, casemate behind turret. 2 ripped through the decks, detonating inside. 50 men were killed instantly. Fire roared uncontrolled. With no pressure on the fire main, hoses sputtered uselessly. The blaze consumed compartments as sailors fought with portable extinguishers, their efforts dwarfed by the inferno. By 8:45, Executive Officer Stone returned and assumed command. Vice Admiral Pye arrived briefly, surveying the devastation from the flag bridge. The battleship Oklahoma capsized, the proud Arizona exploding in fire, black smoke rising across Battleship Row. Believing California was doomed, Pye departed. Captain Bunkley returned at 9 a.m. and took command of his stricken ship. Hope flickered. Engineers brought 4 boilers online, restoring some power by 8:45. By 9:10, California was battered but moving, ready to get underway. But fate intervened. Burning fuel oil, drifting from Arizona and West Virginia, surrounded her stern. Flames engulfed her once more. At 10:02 a.m., Bunkley gave the heartbreaking order: abandon ship. Men leapt into the harbor, swimming through burning oil toward Ford Island. But California's spirit would not surrender. At 10:15, the flames shifted. The order was belayed. Survivors returned, climbing back aboard. Side by side, exhausted sailors and officers fought fires, salvaged gear, and struggled to save their battleship. From Ford Island, equipment was rushed over. From nearby ships, hoses poured water onto her decks. Every man fought as though California's life was his own. Through the smoke and chaos, acts of heroism blazed brighter than the flames. Machinist's mate first class, Robert R. Scott refused to abandon his post at the forward air compressor, even as oil and water engulfed him. "This is my station," he said. "I will stay and give them air as long as the guns are going." He died at his duty. Ensign Herbert C. Jones, wounded and dying, refused evacuation. Instead, he ordered his rescuers to leave him, sparing their lives as a magazine threatened to explode. He gave his last breath to his men. Gunner Jackson C. Ferris, injured by the first torpedo blast, set up human chains to pass ammunition and directed counterflooding. Twice knocked unconscious, he returned each time to drag men from oil-flooded compartments. His courage kept California alive long enough to fight another day. He survived and later received the Medal of Honor. By day's end, 98 of California's crew were dead. 61 were wounded. Yet the battleship still floated, her men refusing to let her go. Minesweepers Vireo and Bobolink arrived, dousing fires and lending equipment. For days, sailors battled to keep her alive. However, on the 10th of December, their struggle came to an end. Flooding overcame her, and USS California settled onto the shallow bottom of Pearl Harbor, her decks awash, her superstructure jutting above the oily water. But California's story did not end there. On the 25th of March, year 1942, she was raised from the mud, patched, and sent to Bremerton, Washington for full reconstruction. Modernized, rearmed, and reborn, she returned to the fight in 1944. She bombarded Saipan, Guam, Tinian, and Leyte. She fought at Surigao Strait, one of the last great battleship duels in history. In 1945, she was struck by a kamikaze off Okinawa, yet again surviving. By war's end, California had proven herself not just a survivor of Pearl Harbor, but a warrior of the Pacific. Decommissioned in 1947 and scrapped in 1959, USS California no longer sails. But her legacy endures, a testament to the men who fought, bled, and died within her steel hull. On that Sunday morning, she was struck down, but she refused to surrender. The USS California, BB-44, will forever be remembered, not for her fall, but for her fight to rise again.